It should be no surprise that I enjoy a good shmup or two, so watching how the genre grew out of the arcades and onto home systems has always been intriguing. Though, for all those conversions of arcade games we know and love which made their way over, there's always those designed for home systems which strike the curiosity more than anything. Like Astro Warrior, one of the earliest shmups released for the Master System in 1986. The story is as bare bones as you'd expect, taking the role of said Astro Warrior, tasked with taking to the stars in your Astro Raider and defeating the Devil Star Imperial forces across 3 separate zones: the Galaxy Zone, the Asteroid Zone, and the Nebula Zone. Be warned, it's certainly no easy mission. Within each stage, you'll be battling a different group of the Devil Star forces as you work your way to the end of the stage boss. Like many an 8-bit shooter, it's not about sheer numbers of bullets on screen and tiny hitboxes, but rather dealing with small formations of enemies with precise firing patterns. Though the Galaxy Zone starts out fairly sedate, things do start to ramp up once you arrive at the Asteroid Zone. But it's the final Nebula Zone, which is really where Astro Warrior tries to punish you. Here you'll encounter some truly nefarious enemies, from the turrets which can take a tremendous pounding before blowing up, to those which are in fact indestructible. The way each zone offers a distinctive set of threats really makes Astro Warrior stand out for me. You can't just rely on reacting to enemies as they appear. Instead, knowing not just how you blast them, but how to evade them is crucial. Though the same can be said for many other shooters, it really sticks out here in comparison to them. Another distinctive mechanic is its power-up system. Once again, outside of the heavy hitter arcade releases, looking at you, Gradius, not many shooters of this era offered any real power-up system. And of those which did, it tended to be quite limited, as you'd seen the likes of Star Force, which really just offered a boost in firing rate at best. Astro Warrior offers what you might call a hybrid system. As you play through, individual weapon ships will appear. Collecting them will install an upgrade, alternating between boosting the Astro Raider's speed or enhancing its firepower. Going from your default cannon to a triple shot and then getting the mighty lasers feels like a serious upgrade, especially as the laser's blast can travel through places on the map where your regular shots can't. Which feels weird for a shmup where you can't collide with ground obstacles, but okay. The final weapon upgrades give you a pair of Gradius style options, which trail behind your fighter, firing as you do. All of this comes in very handy, especially as you reach the end of each stage and encounter each zone's mothership. The challenge comes from knowing their firing patterns and avoiding the fire whilst taking out the weak spots before you can finally take down the core and put an end to it. Now, 3 zones may not seem like much, but once you've beaten the mothership of the Nebula Zone, it should be no surprise to say you'll start over another loop right from the start. Just with the difficulty turned up, of course. Speaking of difficulty, it's one of those areas which struck me as interesting. The Galaxy Zone isn't too challenging to start with, especially once you get fully powered up and can carve through the Devil Star forces like a hot knife through butter. But then you die, which strips you of all your hard-won power-ups. That's not a problem in itself, but recovering them is. Weapon ships aren't as frequent in the later zones as they are on the first, and when combined with the Astro Raider's sluggish default speed, it can make surviving these threats a bit of a challenge. Though it might not be as impossible compared to games like I.O., but until you've gotten some practice under your belt and honed your trigger finger a fair bit, it can certainly feel it. When it comes to its presentation, Astro Warrior carries that early Master System aesthetic, which is well on display here. A simple title screen with some appropriate music and a demo loop is all you'll see prior to starting the game. The in-game visuals are colourful and clear. There was only one type of enemy formation, which did bring some flicker along, but considering it was filled with popcorn enemies, I found said flicker wasn't around for long and ultimately wasn't that distracting, at least compared to other games. On the audio front, you've got unique music tracks for each zone and a dedicated theme for fighting those end-of-zone motherships, all of which carry the cheery charm you'd expect from early Master System games. Which goes a long way to making you feel like you're taking part in the blue skies in games equivalent of a deep space battle. Now, for those hardcore shmup fans, I can't help but think that Astro Warrior might be a disappointment. With the Master System not able to throw around stupendous numbers of bullet sprites on screen, the challenge it presents to the player comes more from challenging enemy use than from just overwhelming the player by sheer numbers. It's also a game that doesn't offer a complex scoring system, featuring combos, multipliers, and scores which reach 9 digits or beyond. So perhaps it's just my inner 8-bit nerd talking, but who needs those in every shmup out there? Astro Warrior is not a massively innovative game, nor is it the best shmup on the Master System by far, but I'll tell you something, I had a lot of fun playing it for the video. Learning its patterns and reaching the point where I could play through the entire first loop without losing a single life felt like an amazing achievement. And honestly, I wish more games were comfortable in offering something like it. That smaller experience which doesn't aim to break new ground, but just do something well enough to be enjoyable for a small period of time. It's not going to be one you'll play forever, but you'll get a good play of it every now and then and maybe see if you can break your score, even though it doesn't stick around on when you do get a game over. So, with that, there's not really much more for me to say than thank you very much for watching.